Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today's project, we're going to be changing this brick molding on the outside of this sliding door. And the reason we're going to be changing it, and that's probably why you're looking it up, it starts to rot away down on the bottom right here. And the reason for that is because water gets in there, snow accumulates against it, and it starts to rot the wood away. Water gets into the wood, and then the paint starts to peel off, and it starts to destroy the wood. Well, they have a replacement product you can get in the big box store. You can get the exact same replacement made of wood, and then you could prime it and paint it. Or you can get another product made by a company called Azor, and there's one out there made by PVC. It's a PVC type molding here too. It looks exactly like the wood molding, but you don't have to paint it. And you don't have to worry about any kind of rot or anything like that because it's weather resistant. It won't fade, won't chip, won't crack, won't peel, none of that kind of stuff. All right, so first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you what kind of tools we're going to need, and then we're going to get started and we're going to get this job done. I am going to be replacing this piece down on the bottom right here too, because that piece is starting to rot away on the one corner down here. So before it gets really bad, we're going to get that out of there, and we're going to replace it with that plastic wood that I was just telling you about. All right, let me bring you in, show you what tools we need, and then we're going to get this job done. Okay, here's an example of what kind of tools you're going to need. I'm going to start over here. We're going to need a drill. Now this just happens to be the one that I'm using. I do like the DeWalt product, so I'm going to be using the drill. I'm going to be using this one here, a driver. I'm going to be probably using one of these bits that comes in this kit to drive these screws in. Of course, a hammer, a pry bar. We're going to use this, and you're probably looking at this saying, I've never seen anything like that before. Well, this one actually comes from a long time ago, actually. It was my dad's when he was a carpenter, and he used to use this, and they used to call it a monkey's claw because they could actually pull out just about any nail with that. And this thing works better than anything I've ever bought in the store present day. We're going to need a scraper probably to get out any kind of caulking. We may need a trowel such as this to just pry so we don't damage the siding or the door itself. A screwdriver, very important, a very sharp utility knife. We may need a pair of pliers to pull any kind of nails that are partially submerged. A pencil, of course, to mark it. Drills, some silicone, and a caulking gun. And of course, we need to measure what we're doing. And we have a chop saw for cutting the wood to the size that we need. All right, next we have the wood right here, or the replacement plastic that I was telling you about. We have some screws like this, and the reason I'm using these is because, as you can see, they're white, so they'll be hidden. You really won't see them once they're in. And of course, that's our other piece for that side there. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in right over here on this corner right here, and we're going to start by, see this right in here, so it's a caulking inside. That we need to get that caulking out so we can take this brick mold out. Now here you can see where there's a nail there, there's a nail there, so we'll do that first. We'll start to come in here and we'll cut that caulking out first. This is most important. We're also going to cut right inside here with a very sharp razor blade as well, so that we don't damage anything in there. All right, so let's get in there and let's get started. Okay. All right, let me continue taking the rest of this out, and then we'll come back when we're ready to cut it and put the new piece back in. And we'll just cut all the silicone out. And that's it. All right, so let's measure our replacement piece. But you know what? Before we do, we're going to come in here and we're going to clean up all of the silicone that's on this side right over here so that the new piece will fit in there nice and smooth. All right, so let me clean this up. We're going to use a utility knife and a scraper, and we'll clean it up. Okay, now before we put the molding back on, we have as you can see, we have bare wood showing right here. So what we need to do is we need to take this waterproofing membrane and we're going to stick the membrane onto the wood. So that way, if moisture was to get behind the wood, behind the new molding that we're going to put on, it won't affect the wood. All right, so let's stick this up and we'll get ready to put that molding on. Okay, so now we put our waterproofing membrane in here so that we're pretty much all set. We're going to cut this to length, so we're going to measure the length of this piece here. We're going to cut it off and then we'll put it back in place and this side will be finished. Okay. Oh, hey, baby. Okay, it's going to be noisy here. Okay. Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
It's running?
Yep.
Okay. All right, come on, we got to watch out. It's going to be noisy. Okay, the next thing we're going to do now is before we put it back up, we're going to cut this angle right here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this, we're going to put it against the back of the miter saw right here, and we're going to set our angle. But as you can see, this is not the right angle. What we need to do is we need to change it around the other way. So we're going to do it 45 degrees, which is what that cut is up on top right there. We'll set it to 45 degrees. And now you can see when we make that cut, it'll be a nice 45-degree angle. All right, so let me cut this, and then we'll get up there and we'll fit it in place, just like that. Here we go. Okay, as you can see, it's a nice 45-degree angle. Now, if you don't have this saw, which a lot of people don't have, you can buy in the big box store, and I'll have it on my Amazon store as well, a hand miter box that you can actually cut these corners with. All right, let's get up there and let's put this in place. Okay, now we measured the length that we need, and we put our mark right here. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut it off right here. It's going to be a straight 90-degree cut. So we set our saw to 0, and that makes it a perfect cut straight across. And here we go. Okay, let's put it in there and make sure it fits. All right, so next we're going to come in here and we're going to pre-drill these holes in here so we can put our screws in here. And just so you know, the screws we're using are 2.5 inch, and they're like, it's like a deck screw. It's on the end of it. It's white, so it's going to blend in with this right here. So we're going to pre-drill it first, right here. Okay, make sure it's in place. We take our driver, put our bit in it, and then we'll drive it all the way in until it's almost totally even with the wood. And that's it, that's one. All right, what we're going to do, just so you know, we're going to put it probably about every foot. And the way you can go every foot is you go the length of a hammer, say, and you put your second one right in over here. So we're going to put it in here. We'll just drill a small hole again. We'll grab our next screw, put it in here, and we're going to drive that in. Just till it's even like that. And now we'll continue on up the wood itself, or the new piece that we put in. We'll continue all the way up, and then this piece will be finished. We'll grab our silicone and we'll finish it off with some silicone. So let me screw it in, and then we'll come back to the silicone and finish it off. Okay, next we're going to put the silicone in here. As you can see, we ran the bead down inside there. You just take your silicone, put it up in here, and you run a nice straight even bead from top to bottom, or vice versa, whatever you choose. Make sure you have a wet rag or a paper towel or something with you, because if you get a little bit of a mess, that's the best way to clean it, with a wet paper towel or rag or something. Okay, well, you get the idea. We're going to do that all the way down to the bottom. We are going to do the exact same thing right up in this area right here, and then that's it. This will be finished. So let me finish caulking it, and I'll come back and I'll show you the finished product. So that's it. We have everything done. We did the siliconing of the joints that join to the existing door and to the house itself. We siliconed everything. A word of advice: when you put the silicone in there, wet your hands. If you have your fingers are wet, when you smooth out the silicone joint, it'll go out nice and smooth. If you don't wet your fingers, all that silicone is going to stick to your hands and it's going to make a mess. So just wet your hands with a paper towel or some water or something, smooth it all out so it looks nice and finished, and that's it. This job is done, except we got to do that side over there, and we're going to change the molding down on the bottom right down here as well. And we're going to, it's the exact same procedure that we did to replace this one brick mold here. We're going to do the exact same thing on this side over here. This one is going to be coming off on this side over here as well. We're going to pull this off, and then we're going to do the same thing down there. The only issue we're going to run into, as you know, is finding the screws or the nails that hold this all together. Next, we're going to remove the bottom molding underneath the door itself. So we're going to try to find the screws in there, or nails, whatever they are. After pulling through it with that tool that I call a monkey's claw, we find out that they're not nails in there, they're screws because they're not coming out. So we're just going to get in there, tap a little bit more to clear it out, and then we'll grab our screw gun and we'll take it out with the screw gun. Next, we're going to try to locate the other screws that are in here. I can see a small little dimpled area where it looks like there was plastic wood or something on top of it. So we're going to take our chisel, we're going to tap out some of that wood so we can get in there and get our screw gun on it so we can extract the screw. A lot of times a chisel works better than anything. Now after we expose the screw head, we're going to take our driver. It's got the plastic wood in it, so we're going to tap that into the screw itself, and once it's in the screw nice and tight, then we'll back that screw out, and then we'll move on down the line and take the rest of the screws out all the way down to the left side of the door. Now after you're sure you have all the screws out, we're just going to grab the piece of wood and we're going to pull it out very gently. You may have silicone on there which is holding it in place, so if you do, you'll have to use a utility knife to get in there and cut the silicone to remove it, which I previously did on the right side, so that way it would come right out. But you may have to get in there and cut the silicone away underneath the door threshold itself. Now once we have this off, we're going to come up underneath here, we're going to clean off any of the silicone that was on the side there. We're going to take our waterproofing membrane, we're going to run it the length of the bottom of the door, we're going to cut it the length, and we're going to peel the back off, and then it's very sticky on the back, so you can stick it up underneath the where the plastic is going to go. You can stick it on there and it'll adhere right to the wood, or in this case it has tar paper underneath there along with the wood being exposed. We're just going to go right over everything with this membrane, and that way everything will be totally sealed off. You don't have to worry about any kind of moisture, or especially in the wintertime when you have snow laying up against it, you don't want snow melting and getting up underneath there and causing a problem. So be very careful when you peel it off, because when you do peel it off, it's very sticky, and whatever you touch, it's going to stick to it pretty good. So just work with a small area at a time, put it where you need to, make sure it's in position, and then you work on down the line until you're all the way at the very end of it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to measure how big of the, how long this piece of wood has to be. We're going to measure it from one end all the way over to the other. Okay. Okay, so now we have our measurement. Let's take our chop saw, let's cut it down, and we'll fit this in place. Okay. Okay, let's make sure it fits in there. Okay, so after we cut the board and we fit it up inside there, we're going to come in here with our drill and we're going to pre-drill the holes. We're going to pre-drill it just right here. Okay, I just want to point this out to you. Make sure that your board is all the way up against the bottom of the door. As you can see, I put shims underneath the bottom just to give it a little bit of elevation, because the previous shims, the previous board that was there was sitting right on the deck and the bottom of it just rotted away. All right, so we'll put a couple of screws in it. Okay, we'll do the same thing down the line here. Okay, we can take out our shims. All right, and that's it. The lower part is now connected on. Next, we're going to come in here with some silicone, and we're going to silicone the edges of it, and then we'll be all set. All right, so that's it. This job is all done. Everything worked out perfectly. We siliconed every place that comes in contact with the new material that we put on. We siliconed here and on the side right here. Down on the bottom, we silicone right down here where it meets the house itself. And then we silicone where the lip of the slider touches into the track itself. We put a bead of silicone underneath there too, just in case water was to hit this and run over the edge. We don't want it running over the edge and then seeping back behind it. Even though we put that waterproofing membrane on there, we want to keep that water away from the house as much as possible. Now you'll notice too that here I actually have it raised up a little bit higher, and it's not sitting right on top of the deck itself. And the reason for that is because the previous piece of wood that was there, it started rotting away because it's constantly sitting in water. Once it rains or snow gets on here, water then seeps into the wood and it just rots the wood away. And as you know, damp or wet wood, insects just absolutely love it. All right, so now we have this plastic material on here, and we siliconed everything, and it should last hopefully for quite a few years before we have to worry about doing anything else. The best thing with this is maintenance free. You don't have to do anything to it. If it tends to lose its whiteness, you can prime it and paint it to match the house or any other color you want it to. But that's it. This job is done, and we're on to the next one. Now I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about that one tool. Let me show you what that tool is. This tool. I'm going to get a lot of questions, people asking me, where did you get that tool? This tool works the best out of any tool I ever had for removing or extracting nails. What I like about this one is actually you can hammer it down, it can dig into the wood, and you could pull the wood if the nail was recessed in there. Where are you going to get it? I don't think you're going to find this thing anywhere. This is probably going to be at least conservatively 40 years old. My dad was a contractor, and he used to use this all the time. He used to call it a monkey's hand or monkey's claw, and this thing works fabulous. So this wound up in my toolbox, and it'll be there for forever. All right, this job is done, and we're on to the next one. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.